Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to a session, this webinar that is presented to you by GeoWorks and Here Technologies. Today's topic is on optimizing the last mile delivery in times of disruption. And I'm happy to be your moderator for this session today. Let's give 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes for more participants to join in before we start the session proper. Hi, everyone. Welcome again. Today's session is presented by GeoWorks and Here Technologies, and we are talking on very topical topic, which is optimizing the last mile delivery in times of disruption. I am your moderator today. I'm TZ Wong. I'm the Head of Analyst Relations for Asia Pacific from Here Technologies. And with me, we have very distinguished gentlemen from different parts of the industry with us today. And we have Abhijit Sengupta from Here Technologies, Franz from Pilar Media Indonesia, and Yao Hui from Grab. So without further ado, I'd like to move on to the next slide, please. Okay, yes, I've already introduced myself. So I'm TZ. So today's agenda, let's briefly run through. First, I'll give a quick welcome note, and then we'll move on to our panel discussion right away. And following that, we'll have a Q&A sessions where I'll be very keen to see what questions you have to submit to us. Now, to submit the Q&A questions, please use the Q&A box you will find at the bottom bar of your Zoom application. Please type your questions inside, and towards the end of the final 5 minutes of the session today, then I will start to take in Q&A questions. And I'll be sure to try to get the panelists to answer as many of your questions as possible. Okay, so some housekeepings, which I've already kind of mentioned. Please submit questions in the Q&A box. You can find it at the bottom bar of your Zoom application. And after which, at the end of the session, please do give us your feedback on how we are doing in a feedback form. And lastly, this is being recorded, and the webinar will be available on demand shortly after. So without further ado, let's move on to the topic proper. And I'd like to start by introducing the panelists here. So first, we'd like to introduce, have the panelists give us a self-introduction of which company they're from and what do they do. So perhaps I'd like to start with Abhijit. Would you like to share with the audience which company you're from and what you do?
Thank you, TZ, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm pretty excited to be here for this webinar. The topic for today is extremely exciting. My name is Abhijit. I lead sales for Southeast Asia and India, based out of Singapore. I've been with the company for over 12 years, and I've been working very closely in this industry, and the topic which we are discussing today.
Thank you, Abhijit. And let's move on to Yao Hui.
Afternoon. So I'm Yao Hui, lead product manager from Grab. So Grab, as many of you would know, kind of operate in Southeast Asia and serve millions of consumer merchants and drivers alike through our platform and app. I mean, many of you would have installed our app on the phone. So for myself, I work in the geo domain and focus on solving problems in the space of routing and ETA, and that's definitely very closely related to some of the last mile things that we'll be talking about today. So for the past 2 years, I mean, I've been also trying to understand the space of food and goods delivery a lot better, and hope to share some of my experience with all of you today. Thank you.
Yes, Xiaohui, thank you so much. We are all looking forward to hear your experiences. And finally, we have Franz from Pilar Media. Franz, please tell us about yourself and your company.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Here Technology and GeoWorks for creating such an amazing event. My name is Franz Prayoga, and I work at Pilar Media Indonesia as the business development analyst. I do research and identify new business opportunities, including new markets, growth areas, trends, customers, partnerships, or new ways of reaching existing markets, specifically in the logistic technology industry. So I am here on behalf of my CEO, Anang Fahmi, because he is currently unavailable at the moment. And my company, Pilar Media Indonesia, is an IT company. We build software solutions and provide support for the companies, to be specific, logistic companies. We help them to manage their business on a daily basis. We provide an ERP called Solok, an end-to-end system to manage the transportations, CRM, warehouse and inventories, and the fleet as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Franz. Thank you. I'm very happy to have all of you here. So the last mile. So why is it important? I think I'm sure people in the industry kind of know that the last mile kind of takes up about 40 to 60% of the cost of delivery. So just from that alone, we can see how important it is to optimize it, right? Because it really boils down to the dollars and cents there. Okay. Also, on top of that, on the consumer end, whether it's a business that you're delivering to or the customers, having a good last mile delivery with the ETAs that's reliable and the service level is really important for repeat customers and the whole experience of the delivery. That's why this topic is so important today. Now, of course, with the COVID situation, there's a boom in e-commerce, there's a boom in deliveries. Okay, that's good for the people in the industries, right? But at the same time, it has also magnified the problems or the challenges that players in the industry have faced that perhaps we could have managed before this boom. But now with this boom, the entire issues has surfaced out and has been magnified. So what I'm saying is both the opportunities are there, has been magnified, but also the challenges have been magnified. It's more critical to deal with it right now. So today, I just want to say, given the kind of a surge in demand and in the demand for deliveries, etc., we are also seeing issues such as shortage of manpower and drivers. So first I want to start on this topic about shortage of drivers, because you need someone to deliver the last mile to you, to the end customer or the business, right? So how have last mile delivery companies addressed the kind of drivers shortages issue? So I'd like to turn this over to Yaohui first to give us an insight in this area.
Thanks, TZ. Yeah, definitely with more people staying home, this has been a challenge for us. I think this is more evident in the area of food delivery, right? Because everyone maybe wants the convenience to get lunch delivered to them. So on the flip side, as you pointed out, drivers have also been more cautious in doing delivery because of COVID, especially in some of the worst areas in other cities outside in Southeast Asia. So I think our priority here is definitely to keep drivers safe. And we do this by educating drivers, merchants on what are the processes they can follow, availing contactless delivery to our consumers as well as drivers, providing equipment, face masks, hand sanitizers on that front to kind of alleviate and mitigate these concerns. So of course, on the tech side, we also can do quite a bit to employ various strategies to kind of smooth out this imbalance, especially during peak hours that we see in the marketplace. So I think that the key strategy is really to keep efficiency high for our drivers. And there are a couple of ways on how we do this today. One of those is that because we want everybody to be able to get their food when they want it, we group orders together so that one driver can actually serve 2 orders, 3 orders with not too much extra time on those orders. To directly address the problem of not sufficient drivers, we try and tap into our driver pool for other services as well. So you can imagine if people are working from home more, transport services will be less in demand. So we do tap into our car driver pool, 4 wheels as we call them, to fulfill the extra demand that's coming up from the food delivery side of things as well. On keeping efficiency high, we facilitate drivers telling them which is the right pickup locations to go, where they can park their cars so that they have easy access to the merchants, so that they can complete their delivery faster as well. And kind of this is win-win for both the drivers and the consumers, right? Because the drivers were able to get more trips into their time, earning more income. Consumers on their hand will be able to get their food faster. I think this is kind of the overall strategy that would be good.
Indeed, that's really interesting. And I will turn over to Franz. So I understand Pillar Media is into you have software to help optimize the operations. Can you share with us what have how has some of the software been able to help your customers to optimize the last mile delivery, and what are the kind of the tangible benefits that they have been able to experience?
Okay. Basically, thank you, TC, for the question. Basically, my company built the software to improve to help the logistic companies, especially for last mile delivery services, to improve their business process, to make digital transformation, and of course the goal is to keep the business sustainability. And for the driver shortage problem, right? From what I have observed from our clients that is experiencing driver shortage. By the way, we have some last mile delivery companies as our clients, specifically trucking companies. There are some reasons why driver shortage happens, from my opinion. The very first reason is the salary or the take-home pay amount is too small. People who attracted into the trucking sector as a driver, expecting that they would be able to fill these roles and provide a solid income for their families, right? However, customers expect quick delivery into their homes, but they are still price sensitive. As a result, development, the companies have attempted to keep the balance between these two aspects in order to satisfy the customers. In order to make it more cost efficient, most of companies cut their driver salary, and that's where the problem happens. There are also cases where the payroll day is days late with them. And the second is about the safety reasons. I think the driver, especially truck driver, must be aware of their surroundings and know how to operate the vehicle very well. Traveling in bad weather on difficult roads and driving for extended period of time to meet deadlines definitely put them in danger. And also there are some cases in Indonesia where the drivers are hijacked by a group of gangsters on the road, just like in the Fast and Furious movie scene. And indeed, some trucking businesses, the wages are so low that it isn't worth the risk for the driver. And then about the trucking lifestyle. As we know, truck drivers spend a lot of time away from their homes because they technically live on the road for days at a time. When this unpleasant lifestyle combined with low pay and minimum benefits, I think it's enough to make anyone want to quit and pursue a new job in another field. And also the minimum requirement to be a truck driver in Indonesia, I think it's quite hard to meet either from the government or from the logistic company itself. So I think in order to lower the driver shortage number, last mile delivery companies have to see this as a crucial problem to maintain both drivers and to attract new truckers to the industry. I think they must provide fair salary or wages, affordable health insurance, maybe make the regulations of minimum requirements a lot easier, and another benefits and incentives. Yeah, basically there's no reason to pursue a career in this industry unless the pay is worth the sacrifices.
Okay, I see. That's very interesting. Now I want to turn to Abhijit and get your insights, because here technologies do help the various industry players with their last mile optimization. What have you seen these companies have been doing in over the last year or so, and what have they done to optimize the last mile? Can you share with us what do you see, and any regional differences if you could highlight?
Yeah, sure, TZ. So some good and interesting point which Yohi and Franz mentioned, especially the changes what the industry has seen in the last 12, 18 months. The number of deliveries have increased definitely. And some of the real problems which was mentioned by Franz in terms of the shortages, in terms of the driver satisfaction, in terms of the driver being sticky to the platform because they might be changing platforms or maybe service providers, and all of these issues. Of course, there are topics which we help when the driver community faces those issues or the platforms faces those issues. So we do address some of these concerns. For example, the optimization or the route optimization is where we play, and our technology plays a significant role. Our company here we work with such as service providers and the platform players to optimize this routing. We have map and location intelligence across various countries in Asia and of course globally as well. And then we are able to provide the optimal routing, the traffic services, the points of interest, parking information, and any such location information which then helps the driver to feel comfortable and earn money. Because end of the day, I think you mentioned in terms of the number of orders they can deliver in a day are limited, and you don't want your drivers to feel stressed while they're trying to fulfill the increased amount of pressure. So yeah, so we are helping the service providers in the time of disruption. We hope that we continue to work with this platform in this area.
Okay. Yeah, I think when we talk about optimizing the last mile, it's a very big, broad, it covers a lot of things. We could optimize the human element, we could optimize the technology elements and other elements to say, what have you observed that, what are the low-hanging fruits that the 3PLs or industry players can help their B2B customers right now in terms of optimizing the last mile? Can you share with us, Abhijit?
So I think the one areas where we do see when we say it has changed in the last 18 months, so what are those changes to start with, right? I mean, one is the depth and the breadth of of the operation. So previously, probably if it was being served in X number of cities, which has become 2X now, and within the X number of cities, probably more neighborhoods and all those orders have number of orders have increased. So from our side, what we do is all these location elements play a significant role in helping in this regard. And on top of it, our platform, which helps these tech companies or the various aggregators to bring their data in and this kind of take it beyond that. So it's a more holistic approach, I would say. Not only we're looking at the location element of it in terms of the granular information, last mile, and say, for example, it's a gated community, right? It's a very popular in Southeast Asia, and when how to access those gated community, how efficiently access those gated communities. These are very important part of the operation.
Okay, that's interesting to see. And I want to switch topics a little bit to talk about kind of the returns or return rates, because we know that there's an increase in the volume in terms of orders. And of course, what I would love to hear, perhaps Yowei's perspective. Have you observed any change in the return rates? Are people more inclined to return things because it's so easy right now to make an order, especially for, let's say, your food deliveries? I think it's a bit difficult to return in this case. But in any ways, would you like to comment on what are you seeing in terms of the return rates? Now, why I ask this is because I said before that the cost of the last mile is 40 to 60%. Now, if there is a return, then that would be a big impact for the business. So could you share some of your general observations, Yowei?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, like you pointed out, I think failed deliveries or returns for us is not a big problem because our services are mostly centered around kind of instant delivery, instant food delivery kind of service. So I think for us, we kind of believe in creating that value for the consumer through good user experience, and so that would result in less cancellation, which kind of similar to returns, or even just minimize the amount of orders that can go wrong, right? So I think the most common thing that you see in food delivery is that merchant packed the order wrongly, and maybe an item was missing or item was wrongly packed it back. And in those cases, it's costly for us because we would have to either replace the item or provide some kind of refund. So I think we kind of solve that by building into our experience on how to ensure items are packed properly, how to ensure that consumers are informed about what are items that are not available and how they can change those orders before it actually leaves the store. Right? So that's kind of one side of the story. I think the other side is also because we can't meet each other face to face, right? There have also been an increase in people placing orders for on behalf of other people. So like maybe your colleague can get you lunch and they place order on behalf, and you don't have that transparency or that knowledge of when this order is coming. So in Grab, we also have mechanisms in place, such as Share My Ride, that you can inform your recipient that, oh, I've actually ordered something for you. Please look out for it. And that includes the order details, the driver details, so that the recipient itself can see when the order is coming, and if there's any problem, you can reach out directly. Okay. That's the way we handle return.
Okay, that's interesting. And I want to turn to France. So when we talk about improving the optimizing the last mile, not every company can afford to pay for some of the fancy solutions, or etc. I understand that Pillar Media is helping SMEs as well in this area. Can you share a little bit of what you're doing with SMEs to help them to optimize the last mile? Francis, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Through the improve the last mile, yeah. Specifically when we, as you have mentioned before, that in a cost sectors, it takes up to 60% delivery cost in the last mile, right? And I think how we help them to make their business more efficiently is through the system as well. We have done some research and interviews with some of our clients in the logistic companies around 2019, and we came up with the solution that the basic of shipment price is in the volume-based cost. The more you deliver, the cheaper the cost is. And bigger cost in last mile delivery is the labor cost. I think the cost of labor is one of the most significant expenses for fleet operators, and for roughly up to 50% of last mile delivery cost. And for example, FTL service, I think is more efficient than LTL service, because in FTL we need less effort, less manpower to deliver the shipment to one destination than too many. And then what makes the cost bigger is the fuel expenses that is in the second place. The total of fuel expense can account anything from 10 to 20% of the total last mile delivery cost. Yeah. Although it may appear to be small percent, inefficient fuel use can have a significant impact as well on the company's bottom line. Furthermore, fuel prices are quite volatile, making it difficult for companies to forecast fuel prices when they are planning for the last mile delivery operations, specifically to deliver more than one destination. And then aside from that labor and fuel expense, yeah, company must also contend with other unexpected last mile delivery costs, just like idling costs, maybe spare part cost, storage cost, and then the reverse logistic cost. The little piece about the reverse logistic cost, the expense itself is still with the reverse logistic cost. For example, the majority of e-commerce shops provide free return with a certain time frame. A customer may return the product in its original packaging or without it. But the e-commerce itself must allow for a return with packaging to ensure the safety of shipping back to the warehouse. And then the total cost of the return process could be fairly considerable, as the company will be responsible for two charges. So for us, I think the enablers, we encourage our clients to do the continuous improvement to their business from a financial perspective. Maybe like planning and forecasting the budget for their operations, reducing the turnover ratio of the business process, and maintaining the transportation and storage costs, and simplifying the organizational structure. Thank you.
Okay, and how about Yao Hui? I want to ask, have you seen what kind of best practices have you or Grab implemented to kind of optimize your last mile operations, and or you can also comment on what you've seen in the industry?
Sure. So I think maybe let's start with some of our observations of other industry players, right? I think in the food delivery space, one of the things that I personally have seen is how do merchants actually reduce the complexity of food preparation for food delivery. So I think in Singapore, what we see is that we just order menu items that are what we see in the store, regardless if it's delivery or not. But the bottleneck is always the restaurant being able to churn out the number of orders for deliveries. So in China, one thing they have done is that restaurants actually have special menu that they use for food delivery, and they can customize this so that one, is easy to prepare. Two, it's easy for the driver to deliver as well. It will survive better on the road, less leakage and all that. So they optimize it from kind of that point of view. I think the other one that have also been popping up quite a lot recently is the use of robotics. So I think even for Grab, we ourselves have conducted a kind of robotics pilot where we have this robot that goes around the mall and basically picks up orders from the merchants and bring it to a central collection point. So this kind of saves time for the driver, because the driver doesn't have to spend the time to navigate that shopping mall to get their order. They can just go to that central convenient point, just right beside the car park, get the order and deliver it. So I think this helps. From there, I think the other part of the much bigger problem here to kind of optimize is the problem of good quality map data. So I think from previous, just now I mentioned we do a lot of guidance for the drivers, telling them where to go. But as deliveries get to more and more places, there's really no good quality map data that you can rely on to, especially for some of the more remote locations. So I think here is something that we think would be kind of the next thing we want to optimize, is to figure out how to use maybe GPS data, GNSS data, and our drivers themselves to see where how to enrich this map data to better inform new drivers, or like where's the merchant, which floor is it at, where's the parking spot you can get to, how long do you actually need to walk to the restaurants and all this. So we're kind of building all this capability into our Grab navigation platform. So this is something that we provide to the driver, and it's basically a seamless journey to guide them along on what is the route to take, how to get to the restaurant, and just provide all the information they need on the fingertips of that.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I can certainly feel for the drivers who have to navigate remote regions unmapped, and when the roads are changing, or even within dense urban areas where's the area that they can stop their vehicle to pick up food, etc., and finding the stores in the mall, which keeps changing nowadays. So that is definitely a real life on the ground challenge. And of course, if we speak about the routing and mapping and technologies, I would like Abhijit to comment. And what kind of best practices, or would you like to comment on what Yao Hui has said and share the industry perspective?
I completely agree with you. What you mentioned in terms of in the difficulties which being faced today, as far as those operations are concerned, starting from the areas where probably these are not mapped, or these are areas are not properly indexed, or the addresses are not very structured. So what we see in many countries, the starting point is the addressing are not structured. So it's not very sequential, or no logical alphanumeric value the way it should be. Street names, for example. Also, how the consumers input the address, right? Because that also kind of defines in many ways if they are properly captured in the map. And in many countries, that's a quite reality. And I can understand what you have mentioned, like, for example, areas where these difficulties happen. So what we do at our end is this is a problem which we have been we are aware of. We know that on ground what kind of difficulty we face, and also there is a very specific local angle to it, which is very country specific nuances or specialities or characteristics, be it language, be it the way the data is input, or the way for example, aliases or nicknames, example, alternate names are used. These are very, very important elements which tries to help. So what we do is we take them at the database level, at this kind of a map data level, and then we also optimize our services when we give our various maps, APIs, and services, which are also optimized for these kind of very specific topics. And because of our scale of operations in many countries, we have 200 maps in 200 countries and also operate in 50 plus countries. So we do have these opportunities to cross learn, from we learn from one platform, and then we take that learning, and then we can implement, and we can do it at scale. So that's the value we bring in. And the most important is our platform gives us an opportunity to various service providers to use, either monetize the data, for example, because there is very if that data already is kind of captured through certain means, maybe there is an opportunity to kind of share and kind of build a business around it, or even use the workspace of the platform to kind of cook it better and maybe take advantage of what is already in the platform. So I believe it is more of it's a big data problem. It's a problem where there is a loss of local characteristics which needs to be factored. We have made various case studies where have kind of works on the specific segments of the countries.
So essentially what you're saying that this is essentially a big data and location problem, and it can be solved. It's only a matter of how you want to solve it, how you want to approach it, right? And the options you select. So but I want to pause here and remind the audience that you can ask questions and feel in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom application. So please feel free to type your questions in, and we address them towards the end of before the end of this panel. All right. So now I want to switch topic to talk about this thing about micro fulfillment centers. So there's been talk that micro fulfillment center is one way to kind of optimize the last mile delivery. Now, I am not too sure about that because of the OpEx and CapEx involvement. I do not know how it is actually working in the industry. So perhaps I'd like to get your insights on this, and let's start with Franz. What do you think of this idea of using micro fulfillment centers to kind of optimize the last mile delivery?
Okay. I think personally, I believe that micro fulfillment centers are one of the solutions in the last mile sectors. Nowadays, people want faster and cheaper delivery services. When we buy things online, we want that item delivered to our house next day, right? But here in Indonesia, the micro fulfillment center players are mostly the IT company taking the role as the enablers, just like what my company does. We usually collaborate with the logistic companies since they have the experience and best practices in the field. I think the collaborations can come up with something new, something that can disrupt the business flow, just like what the micro fulfillment centers did in the last couple of years, where they are the solution of warehouse space problems, big investments in the systems issues, and faster delivery time. But in this situation, I think all we need is a strong omnichannel strategy where it connects the orders from I think e-commerce, shippers or manufacturer to the micro fulfillment hub, through the system integration. And we need the database integrated to the order management system, fulfillment system, and the distribution management or transportation management system, all the way from the beginning of the process until the shipment delivered. The most common problem that our clients are facing at the moment is that the good stock visibility. It is essential to maintain the accurate stock availability to run the micro fulfillment center here. Choosing the proper inventory management system, I think, will be the key to keep the good stock clearly visible. But the most important thing is, in order to make sure how micro fulfillment center works, we have to own an accurate forecast and strong reverse logistics strategy as one of solution if anything goes wrong with the distribution or the sales of the goods itself. So the goods won't be wasted.
I see. Okay. And Yao Hui, is micro fulfillment centers applicable to your business?
Yeah, I think we view micro fulfillment at a much different scale compared to like 3PLs and things like that. So I think micro fulfillments from our point of view is more of like using them to raise to get goods to consumers faster, to raise the quality of produce that people get. So I think you can see in the industry what has started to take trend is like dark stores, right, where you are able to order from these locations that are not open for walk-in customers. And this basically allows you to site these dark stores at residential areas, right? Because you don't have to open it to the public, and enable shorter delivery times to your consumers. So whether is this going to solve like a driver shortage issue, I'm not sure as well, but it definitely improves that quality of service that you get. So even even on the food delivery context, we also have Grab Kitchen or Cloud Kitchen, as people more commonly call it, that kind of reduces this time of transit the food stays on the road. So for some areas, you can imagine that there may not be restaurants nearby. So this sort of Grab Kitchen setup actually helps fulfill demand from these areas. I think even going down to even more smaller scale and something that's been done for a long time. I think even self-collection stations for like parcels and all that are also kind of a form of micro fulfillment. So I think Pop Station, I think everyone's familiar with, something that started very long ago, created a lot of convenience for myself personally, because I really like it a lot. And I guess helped to reduce that redelivery cost that was probably the why this idea was sparked. Yeah.
I see. Do you have any insights or comments on the micro fulfillment centers in terms of optimizing last mile, Abhijit?
I think the way I look at it is micro fulfillment center is nothing but a location which is probably at a different granularity level. So for example, what I mean is, for example, if a city has X number of fulfillment centers, which is from the point of production, then what it happens is kind of gets an aggregated and it has become more a hub and spoke kind of a model, right? And rather than it goes to one center in a particular city. So the fundamentals remain same for us, which is basically that what is the depth of coverage around that micro fulfillment center, and can the drivers route effectively to the centers and away from the centers to the delivery destinations. So fundamentals remain same. But what also happening is through the micro fulfillment center, it's really helping the operations. It's kind of optimizing the last mile operation. So probably, and Yao is the specialist, and of course Franz as well. Probably it's more localized, or it is more probably areas which is more nearby of the consumers.
What I'm hearing is the micro fulfillment center seems to help in the part of the operations to optimize the last mile, but it's not the silver bullet, so to speak. It's just one part of the solution, right? So now we want to talk about, just now Franz made a comment about having different systems, and data need to flow through the different systems, right? For deliveries to be successful, for the last mile to optimize. Now this brings about a very real problem in the industry, whereby we are dealing everyone. There's so many players in this space. We are all using some kind of a system, not necessarily speaking to each other. The data might not flow. So how is this a opportunity or an obstacle? Because to me, I like to see challenges as opportunities. So would you like to comment on that front?
I'm sorry, Dizzy, can you rephrase the question again? I'm sorry.
Okay, the question
Thank you.
here is that, so we need the data to flow through all the different systems so that we can at least have a chance to optimize the last mile operation. But the reality is that that's not the case. There are too many systems and different types of data. So how is this, do you see this as an opportunity for your company, or do you see this as one of the things that players, industry players, 3PLs can do to actually optimize the last mile, because they should tackle this data flow issue first? What are your thoughts?
Okay, thank you. That's an excellent question. I think when it comes to the supply chain and particularly last mile services, yeah, it's about providing data sets supplied by real time. Maybe trackers or ensuring essential information is shared with other people and integrating seamlessly across the platforms. When systems and data sources are built to be shared, I think it's easy to adopt a collaborative approach, which improves last mile operations itself and the efficiency from beginning to the end. In Indonesia, the challenge that we were facing now is the knowledge and infrastructure gap, I think. Most of logistic companies are already aware about the technology, the digital transformation, and the cross-platform integration, but they just don't know how and where to start. What they thought is that investing in an integrated system in order to enable data sharing is expensive, and they still cannot determine whether it is a capex or opex. Hence, we provide Shalom, one of our product, as a logistic platform to connect to connect their business to multiple stakeholders like customers, vendors, and other parties. I agree that data access is important, yeah, but it becomes even more valuable when you can simply distribute that data into the right hand. As a result of new cloud-based supply chain, uh, shippers may not only monitor data directly, but also cooperate with other teams to ensure that everyone who requires access has access. In the last mile delivery case with Shalom, we hope that the shipper can reach out to the carrier or the end customer immediately, because it's essential to offer up-to-date information and location and condition of items in transit, both internally inside or outside the organization. It doesn't matter which approach you use, but I think making data easily accessible in the cloud will enable everyone involved to develop, more collaborative mindset and increase efficiency through more seamless communication.
That's a very interesting perspective. And Yao Hui, I'd like to ask your thoughts on this. How is Grab handling or tackling this issue of having to aggregate all the data from your different merchants, drivers, or intermediaries, or cloud kitchen? Can you share with us what you're doing to kind of make the data flow through your system so you can optimize all your operations?
Yeah, so good question. I think for us, not as challenging as the supply chain, because there's different companies that's on it. For us, we kind of have three consumer groups that we're dealing with, right? Passenger, the drivers, and the merchants. And actually, each of these group have their own app that we provided for them. So data flow kind of takes place in that manner where the information that we required would either be collected via the app or shown on the app itself to provide them that information. I think one of the principle that we follow is also to have transparency for all the parties, meaning that if the kitchen is delayed, we communicate this to the consumer. If the driver needs to pick up a few orders at a time, we tell this to the consumer as well. I think that's where we come from. Yeah.
Okay, I see. And Abhijit, would you like to comment on this kind of a data flow issue? Is this something that kind of an integrated platform can help to resolve? What are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, so look, I mean, for our business and when we address the use cases, data is core to what we do. Of course, we have the layers of services and we have a platform to handle the data, but fundamentally, it's a data. And we start with the data, which is the road attribution and the point addresses and the addressing points of interest, and everything around the location is core to what we do. For us, what we've seen is that this data is also in silos, various data which is probably not available for everybody to use. Many sets of data is either generated but utilized very differently, but not kind of broadly shared. There might not be a framework for that in many countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is, of course, we have an approach where we build the data ourselves, or we go to the suppliers who can give us the data. And on top of it, we are just this platform which have this marketplace where we invite various data owners who can bring the data and kind of bring it on the platform so that others can take advantage of it. And there is a commercial model to help to that structure. So yes, it's very core to us. We have been doing this for many years. And we know that how this data becomes extremely important for everything which we're discussing today for last mile.
Okay. Now, what I just want to share is apparently the Singapore government also feel that the data flow is really important. That's why they have set up a system from one of the government statutory boards to help to ensure that the data flow between the different players in the supply chain are able to be exchanged on a common kind of a platform. So it seems like people are recognizing this issue and trying to tackle it. So I guess the urgency now is even more so because we have seen so many delays due to the lack of visibility in the shipment, and then it cascades down to the last mile. So we do actually have a question that came in, so I'd like to take the opportunity to address the audience questions. And again, a friendly reminder that you can type your questions in the Q&A box in the bottom bar of your Zoom application. So this question is for Jali Sam, who says that he agrees that the last mile costs make the bulk of the supply chain management cost. And it says that he quotes that UPS claims it saves millions of dollars a year by adopting a turn right concept. That is, trucks that almost never have to make a left-hand turn. His question is, has any company in Asia considered this? And if so, how successful? This is a very interesting question. So basically, UPS has made the drivers route the routes such that the drivers never had to do a left turn, but only needs to do a right turn. That's really interesting. Has anyone seen something that's happening in Asia in terms of this kind of routing mechanism? Perhaps Abhijit is best place to comment.
If I understand the comment correctly, it's firstly, look, I think in the countries which we see in Asia, they're not always a right turn means a right turn.
Indeed.
Right? And even there is a right turn, which is a sign. It's a probably what the statement means is it follows a pattern. I think that's what I want to kind of read this. But in our case, in the countries in Southeast Asia or the areas, geographies in many parts of Asia, it's more complex. I think it's pretty. That's how I will put it. And as we go more and more cities, some of these road signs might not be available, but I know what probably the question, the statement is more than the signage itself is basically it follows a pattern. I'm sure those patterns are understood very well by the platform companies like what Yoi does, and I think there is a pattern which is then taken back and then kind of optimized accordingly. And in many cases, what we do is, and it's something very interesting in our database, something which is legal right turn and not legal right turn. You know, you will see on ground that people turning right, but if there is no signages, so these are complex road condition, and many times the software is not able to handle that because it's not so explicitly called out. But then, yeah, I mean, that's the fun part of it, actually.
Okay, and Abhijit, there's a follow-up question from Jali, who asked that, do you think there are cities in Asia who can adopt this kind of a routing successfully?
I think yes. Some countries where it's more, I think that the pattern is more predictable. I guess yes, and that's what I would think. And the way I'm understanding this question, which is this following this pattern, I mean, right turn is just follow a very strict pattern. I think many cities it would be in where it is very structured. The traffic is structured and it follows a pattern. I think that is how I would look at it.
Yeah, I think this might not work in cities like Tokyo, where the roads are like windy and it is not so, it's just very organically developed. But perhaps cities where there's a grid-like pattern, which is more applicable in this case, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are almost near towards the end of the session. I just wanted to end this by saying that the audience here, we have many players in the different parts of the supply chain and the last mile, the 3PLs, etc. So I would like to go around all the panelists and ask you to share some of the key takeaways that you would like the audience to go home with after this session. So perhaps I would like to start with Yao Hui.
Sure, thanks, DZ. Yeah, so I think as we move a lot of our consumption online because of this pandemic, I think for us, we think businesses should focus more on how to deliver better home-based experiences, whether is it through the app or whatnot, but also focus on the process of keeping workers safe at the same time. So I think this is really an opportunity to leverage on innovation across different industries. So I think some of them that we have been leveraging on, like robotics, we have been leveraging on augmented reality to bring things closer to life in your own home as well. So I think that's probably one takeaway that would be good in these times of disruption.
Thank you, Yao Hui. And over to you, Franz. Key takeaways for the audience.
Okay. For me, I think that's a simple one. These changes will be happening for sure. We just don't know when and where. But when these changes become general, become universal, where will your brand be? Will you be a pioneer of the field of the last mile delivery? Yeah, and then we must consider adapting our plan to the changing industry, environment, and company right now. I think we can do continuous improvement in every aspect of our business. We can digitize our business, make collaboration, map out what your competitors are up to these days, what your customers really need, and then find out how these new improvements may help you enhance your last mile logistics. For your customers, you want speedy, dependable, and cost-effective delivery. Then find out how to maximize those opportunities. Invest in technology to people with good quality, manage the budget efficiently and effectively, and don't forget to maintain our customer relations, because for me, I think the best investors are our customers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Franz. And over to you, Abhijit.
I actually echo whatever has been said before as far as the disruption concern and the changes and what we expect from an innovation perspective. The behaviors have changed significantly. You know, the contactless delivery is one example. With suddenly the adoption of that, I'm sure there are data points to prove that has increased significantly. The product categories which now is getting delivered are very, very different, from ice cream to food, of course. So there's a cold chain itself, it has got developed. So there are all of these will now will go further. And yesterday, I think I was as part of some session which was mentioned that what many had expected to happen in probably 5 years from now is started to happen now in terms of the volume, the scale, and the disruption. So I think exciting times ahead, TZ.
Okay, fantastic. And if there's one more last question from Charlie Sampson, so I think it's addressed to Yao Hui. So if Yao Hui, if you take 1 minute to quickly address this question, I'll be grateful. So what he asks is that, do you think different parcel and food delivery companies should integrate to increase riders and / drivers productivity and cost savings to consumers, somewhat similar to what the airline are doing with code sharing, perhaps? Would you be able to comment on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is an interesting concept. Essentially, how this will work is kind of like a shared supply pool, right? Because we understand now like different players have different ways of getting the amount of drivers that they need. So I would say definitely it will be a plus point for the industry. Shorter term, maybe how this how people or how players can explore this is that probably the direct competitors won't be so keen in doing this, but there are definitely indirect spaces that, for example, Grab and 3PL companies, collaborations will take place in those spaces.
Partnerships and collaborations are so important these days. All right. Thank you everyone for your valuable time, Abhijit, Yao Hui, and Franz. I think the audience has really benefited from your experience and your insights. Now, before the audience, before you go away, please, we really value your feedback. If you could take a couple of minutes to scan the QR code to complete the feedback form and tell us how you think of this session and what we do well, please let us know. We really appreciate that. And once again, thank you to the panelists, and thank you to the audience, and thank you to GeoWorks and Here Technologies for presenting this webinar on optimizing last mile delivery in times of disruption. Thank you. I'm TZ. Goodbye.
Thank you, GeoWorks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.